I'd like to call the Board of Works meeting to order. Phyllis, if we could have roll call.
Craig Koshaw.
Here.
Bill Carbach.
Here.
Ken Meyer.
Here. You emailed a copy of our minutes from our July 3rd meeting. If you've had a chance to approve those minutes, I'd look for a motion to approve them.
So moved.
Second?
Nope, you weren't here.
Yeah, Craig, you were here. I will second that motion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Agenda this evening. First thing we have to do is have a public hearing that we did the last time. However, it didn't matter because the advertisement wasn't quite right, so we need to... Could we make a matter of record the advertisement first of all here, Phyllis? Yep. It was published. I have him make a motion to make this a matter of record.
So moved.
Second.
Can I not second?
Yes, you can now. You're back on. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Okay, now we need to suspend the Board of Works meeting and enter into a public hearing in order to take any input regarding the proceeds that we may get to proceed with getting appraisals to sell the former Decatur casting property.
I'll make a motion that we do so. I'll second that.
Motion and a second to suspend the council meeting, or the Board of Works meeting, rather. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I need a motion to open a public hearing.
So motion. That's good, yeah. Second.
A motion and a second to open a public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, this is a public hearing to take any input regarding proceeding to get appraisals to sell the former Decatur casting location. There's no buyer at this time, but we can't even proceed with attempting to sell it until we go through this exercise. Are there any questions from the public or department heads or Board of Works members?
No, I don't have any.
None over here. Seeing none?
I have no questions.
Okay. If there are no questions, we could close this meeting if someone would like to make that motion.
I'll make that motion.
And I will second. I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. The public hearing has now been closed, and I would look for a motion to reconvene the Board of Works meeting.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second to reconvene our Board of Works meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We're now back in our Board of Works meeting. And with that, Tim, I will go ahead and get the appraisals in the works for the Decatur casting property. I'll get the...
And what I would do is have a motion authorizing that and then recommending to council that they concur with that, because council has to have a public hearing as well.
Okay. So you have that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Let me write this down here quickly. To council.
Open. BOW. And motion to... What's this motion to do?
Get appraisals for the Decatur casting site.
Get appraisals.
Okay. Thank you. 2 weeks ago, it was brought up about the pay status, the return pay from Julie McConnell on her breach of employment contract. And is this it, Phyllis? It appears that she should have paid back $3,295.80. And she made 3 different payments, 2 in 2016 and 1 in 2017 for a total of $500, showing that she has a balance due of $2,795.80. That last and only payment in 2017 was in June of 2017, so just a little over a year ago that she made a payment. Looks like Phyllis has done some calculating here. If she would is that if she'd pay this year off in 12 months? Okay. The $27.95.80, if she would pay that off in 12 monthly payments, her payment would be $232.98. If she wants to pay it off in 6 months, it'd be $465.97. Would we want to allow her to have more than a year? Is that $232.98 going to crimp her lifestyle to a point where it should matter to us, or should we want the money?
I would just give her that year. She's already had a year.
She's had, her first payment was in November of 2016.
Right. I think...
She terminated on August 2016, coming up on 2 years ago.
I would advise us to just to go ahead and give her a year and tell her we want it paid on.
Okay.
I mean, that's my feelings. I think once...
Okay, this is before you were on the Board of Works, I think. But,
Not familiar.
but you are familiar, though, right?
No, I'm
You're
not familiar at
okay.
all.
Okay, well, when we hire a police officer, we have them sign a 5-year contract for the investment that we make in them, with all the uniform, the bulletproof vest, gun, and everything, and the training, all the training. And if they leave us inside that 5-year period, they're to pay back the balance of what we have off that investment. Hers was $3,295.80. 2 weeks ago, we voted one of the 3 recent officers that we just hired. Okay, we got him uniforms, et cetera, boots and everything, and he quit a couple weeks into this wasn't for him, into the new job, and we established his payment, okay, at that time, which his wasn't nearly as much because we didn't send him off to the academy or anything, okay, but which made us think of Julie, the fact that we're just kind of out of sight, out of mind with it, okay? I guess, Phyllis, what were we thinking of sending her some kind of an invoice, or?
That's how you want to do it, yeah. We could send her an invoice.
So yes, she owes a total of $500 out of her $32.95. One in November, one in December of 2016, and 6 months later she paid another $100 toward it, and we haven't had anything in a little over a year.
My feelings are, she understands the same thing
She
that
signed the
she
contract.
signed. That's a little bit of teeth that we put into a new officer, that that we're not a training facility. So that is something that we instituted, and I don't think we want to leave it slide. And I think her obligation's there, and I think we should...
If we don't require it from her, how can we require it from the young man we just did 2 weeks
Exactly.
ago?
Meisner will not even put it in the contract.
So the only thing that I would suggest is just make sure that we're doing it uniformly, that we've done it for every officer that has left prior to the 5 years and signed an agreement.
We have.
We have, yeah.
Then it makes sense to enforce it. Now, if the payment process isn't that good on 12 months, then maybe we should ask for what she can do. Yes, and then get it done. But I would make a recommendation that we let Phyllis communicate with her and find out what kind of a payment plan she could be on that would be comfortable until we can get this resolved.
Okay, Bill made a
Do you want to
motion.
go a year, though? If you're just going a year,
I'm just
or
saying,
do you want to go longer?
if it doesn't work out for a year, I mean, and she doesn't pay it, then what do we do?
Jim?
You're going to get blood out of the tournament?
But literally, you sue.
Right. And if it doesn't have the money, I'm just saying, I think it would be a good idea for you to let her know that we are serious about it, that Phyllis I'm talking to, that we are serious about this, and that she has signed a contract, and she's left her apartment, and that we need to find a comfortable solution, being it whatever it takes to get this resolved.
Yeah, if she can't pay, if she can't afford $233 a month, then she wants to pay $200 a month, $150 a month. I'm good with it, just so she does
We
it and
just
she's
need to get it
consistent with
resolved.
it.
Well, maybe just contact her and say, this is the balance, the city is willing to allow you to pay it over 12 months at $232.98. If for some reason that creates a hardship for you, please contact me and let me know what you can do, and I'll take it back to the board.
Thank you. I think that's a good idea. I don't want to let it go, but on the other hand, if it's $232, if she can afford that at this time, then let's do something that she can work with her. You agree?
Exactly.
Okay, so which one of you made a motion? I know one of you, Bill did. Did you second the motion then? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Phyllis, you'll send her an invoice, okay?
To work out payment for it.
With
Phyllis, just-
something typed in there saying what we discussed here.
Thank you.
All in favor of that motion? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Phyllis. Next, Ann has a few employees. First, Luke Harvey has passed his IDEM testing for wastewater Class 3 certification. Therefore, Luke is now qualified for the plant operator certified hourly rate, and that would bump his rate to $19.43 per hour. And then job classification on hourly rates for Josh Butler and Tom Barker would change. Due to their time and expertise in the wastewater department, Ann is asking that they be classified as operator level 1 with a pay rate of $18.40 per hour, and this is a promotion from operator level 2. Ann, you have any comments?
I just appreciate the time and effort they put into their training. Quite a few of them have taken once a week for 7-week class, and like Luke, he passed his exam. Carrie Filling and Bryce did it earlier, and they're all motivated to get to that top wage rate, which is what we need.
And for Josh and Tom, I looked it up, but I can't recall what they are currently making. Do you know, Phyllis?
17.
High 17s, yeah. So it's like a 50-cent roughly increase. And for Luke, was this a little more significant? I can't.
Well, he would go from the 1840 to the
1940. 1943.
The certification
Okay.
means a lot.
Well, this is really between, I guess, Ann's recommendation, and is it the entire board that approves this, or is this mine? I got down here that we're making it a matter of record. Is it?
Yeah, the amount's in the salary limit, so you can go up to that pay.
Okay. So I'd just like to make these a matter of record. You got it?
I've got a question. And in your job structure, do you need 2 Class A operators? I mean, on your layout, do you have so many people per classification, or?
It's not that, it's more working independently. It's an indication of your experience. It's not one job or the other job. And a Class 2 is just less experienced and needs more supervision.
So we don't have any structure that says how many of each class we need.
Yeah.
It's just that as they get more experience and get educated more, they just move up to a different
So
class.
the highest is desirable.
And keep in mind, they're not,
Okay.
like, what Luke is a wastewater Class 3 plant operator, okay? The other 2s are just operator, level 1 and level 2. So they went from operator 1 to operator level 2, and Luke is a plant operator.
Well, they're all plant operators. Luke is a certified plant operator, where they're just level 1 and 2.
Okay.
Certified would be the highest.
Which requires some testing and,
Yeah, then continuing as
right.
to keep the certification.
So it's, people with the certified is Bryce, Carrie, and Luke, plus yourself, and Berlin, yeah. Okay. Make these a matter of record?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next. The option to purchase the home across, over here at the corner of First and Monroe that we have on that home is coming due, and so we'll need to proceed with an actual purchase agreement. And I would like to have the Board of Works support so that I can recommend that to the council at our next meeting here, that we proceed with that. That would take place as soon as Phyllis can get the paperwork out for me to sign, and we would notify Micah McWilliams, it's due tomorrow, the 18th, for us to exercise our option. And so I would like to have a recommendation from you to proceed with that.
Motion to exercise the option.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
And authorize Ken to sign on behalf of the
Council.
city.
Yep, and authorization to sign on the...
And we'll be bringing that up at the council meeting. Parking on 9th Street. Council members, you guys about done with the flames back there?
Sure.
I'll pass on this till we go a little further here. Melissa, are you prepared to go next
Property
to discuss the application for the arts grant?
option.
Well, then let's do it.
Exercise the property.
The option on the McWilliams property.
I'm sorry.
Melissa has
McWilliams.
come across a grant that she thinks would be beneficial for us. This was to go to Board of Works, not council, right? Yeah. And she'd like to explain a little bit about it and get our okay to proceed.
The National Endowment for the Arts has a grant program called the Our Town Grant Program, and they fund usually between $100,000 and $1 million per project in grant funding to anything related to the arts. It pays for, it can pay for a person, for salaries, for construction projects, to revitalize a building. It really spans a large variety of eligible activities. And knowing what we're in about a year when the lofts open and what the changing downtown is going to look like and what we need to be able to provide for our arts community, I'd like to use this grant to apply for some programming money. If we're going to ask for money, we can ask for an employee. I think we should do that. There's lots of arts programming things that we'd like to be able to start providing to the tenants of the lofts as well as our community at large. And I'd like to explore this grant and potentially apply for it in hopes of getting some of these things paid for and taken
You say this
care of.
grant has anywhere from $100,000 to $1 million awards per project?
Depending on what you request and what your capacity is, because the sky's kind of the limit with this grant. This is the
Why don't you go
same-
find one of these for Hannah Nutman?
I'm working on it. This is
I'm working on it.
This is the same grant that we attempted to apply for a couple years ago in partnership with St. Francis that kind of fell apart at the last minute because there was some
Remember that.
misunderstanding on their end of what they were being asked to do. So like a lot of grants that are happening now, they're asking for a lot of partners and a lot of different organizations and people to be involved. So I would like to have permission to explore this grant. An initial application we would do in August with the full application being due in September.
What kind of match?
I'm working on going through all the webinars and I don't know the answer to that yet, so I won't
Okay.
proceed without...
So that we give you the okay doesn't mean you're necessarily going to do this. You'd just like to get the okay.
If it's
If
okay
you
that
think
I
that
spend some
it's-
time in exploring this, then as I recall when we worked with St. Francis, there was a lot of in-kind that was available. For example, there was a proposal to use the Marks building as kind of a location, and that was acceptable to be used as matching funds.
Is there any,
So,
included in this, is there any kind of artistic construction that we could include?
It's pretty, as long as you've got something related to the arts, the sky was the limit as I read it the last time.
Mural?
All kinds of stuff. So, like I said,
Okay.
I'd just like to take a look at it with your permission and come back with some information. I'm not going to apply without.
I think it'd be great to
letting everybody know the
check into it at
details,
least.
But,
Yeah.
I'll agree. I agree with all those grants that Melissa goes after. They're out there.
Mhm.
If we don't do it, somebody else is going to do it, so go for it.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I'll make that a motion.
Motion to proceed, and I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Melissa, you said you applied when?
we went through almost up to the end of the application process. I don't know if it was in 2016 is my guess.
No, I mean for this one, when do you have to apply?
Oh, it will be due in September.
September.
Yes.
Okay. We'll come back to you on the other
Thank
issue
you.
in a little bit here. So you get all the council
So
members
it's
up there.
permission to apply for the grant.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Hey, Jeremy, we have Mr. Steffen here tonight. I guess we want to discuss this. You want to come up and...
Well, again, if you have some questions, Toby will be here to give some explanation on any questions.
Okay, well, Toby Steffen from Butler Fairman, is it pronounced Seifert or Seifert?
Seifert.
Seifert. Butler Fairman Seifert is here, and he has been working with Jeremy to help Jeremy come up with our application and our program for what we want to put in for the Community Crossings grant through NDOT. And we can apply for up to $1 million. And Toby has a proposal here. Tim, do you have a copy of this?
I do. I've got two suggested changes, and that's it.
Let's hear them.
Okay. The first would be on page 4, where it talks about general liability insurance coverage. Normally, we request that the city be named as an additional insured as its interest may appear. That typically doesn't pose any problem or cost anything. It just adds us as an additional party that's protected. The second would be on page 6, where it talks at the bottom, paragraph 21, about disputes. It talks about non-binding mediation, and all I would ask is that at the end of that sentence, it would be added pursuant to the Indiana Rules of Civil Mediation, which clarifies which type of mediation it is. Other than that, I've reviewed the contract, I'm fine with it.
Okay, and then Jeremy had also pointed out to me that on the contract it lists both Craig and Bill Carbach as councilmen and their Board of Works members, Board of Works and Safety members.
Okay, my fault.
So that would need to be changed. But otherwise, what they're suggesting for all their professional help in us going after $1 million with NDOT, if I can find it here. I know it's $9,000.
$910.
Thank you,
$9,910.
And what we're looking at is next week, NDOT's going to have a community crossing committee shortly after that's going to open up for applications. So Toby and I have been working for the last month or so to get together to come up with basically paving packages and do a lot of additional paving next year with this community crossings money, and also our normal yearly paving. So if this comes good, which I feel pretty confident with Toby's help that it will, we would have an outstanding year.
With paving, a
Paving
lot of
some
extra
areas
paving.
that definitely need to be paved. Now, where Toby's expertise and Toby's team expertise is going to come into play is analyzing the handicap ramps and such, because when we pave, all those will have to be upgraded due to federal highway and NDOT's requirements. Also coming up with quantities and stuff, working back together and making sure that the quantities match what we need, and just making things go smooth, right, Toby?
Absolutely.
Yeah, under their services by the engineer, the project description that provide the city of Decatur with 2 phases of professional services, including Phase 1, asset management plan and application process, and Phase 2, post-award program assistance for the community crossing matching grant. So,
And the difference between those two, we're not, why put a package out for contractors to bid on if you don't get a certain amount of money? So say if you get 500,000, I hope you get it right, that, you know, why put all those packages together? Once you know that what you have and what goes for what street, then that phase 2 for those streets and for that money that's desired. Then we'll kind of come back for a second.
Toby, have you done this for any other communities that have been awarded?
Probably 30, 35.
Okay.
40.
Success rate?
Works for me. Good batting
The
average?
The success rate is the need of the community. So if you show the need of the community, that is your success rate. So, as I understand, you did not get
Last year.
and I know that between Jeremy and I think you can, you've knocked on some doors and
Yeah, we've
to
kinda-
certain people and made, hey, we're coming after whatever we can and to the max. So success rate is depending on your sometimes political push, and let them know that there's a need. Why do you have a need? And you have to explain it. That is what your success rate is.
So
Every community is hungry. Every community wants it.
So looking at us, and what you know about our community, give us a number. Percentage, you think we're in pretty good shape to get this money?
Yeah, I think you're going to get probably as much as you can. Very few, I'm honest.
Yeah.
To get $1 million, there's been a few communities that have gotten that. A lot of communities gotten 900,000, 750, 800,000. So I think those are for a lot of work that goes on. Now, if you do get that 900,000 this year, will you get that 900,000 the next year? Probably not. It'll be something of lesser value, but will you still get something? Yes. If you have a need and you show it, you will get the money again.
Then why do we get nothing?
That was my mistake. I had a short little portion, and there was one sheet of paper that didn't make it into the scanner. It's my mistake. I had a lot going on at the time, and that was one of their reasons, because they had so many applicants, and they had to start weeding them out. So I took full responsibility for that.
And they're looking to weed you out. So I
There
know
was never anything.
there's the mayor of Shelbyville. He forgot to sign his for $1 million. They didn't give it to him.
Jeremy, make sure I sign it.
Well, I mean, the way you say it, you've been through this process several
Right, and
times.
that's our job. So
Okay.
basically, if I fall short,
9,000.
I guarantee you're not going to hire me again.
Probably not.
The onus is on us to get the money for you.
All right.
And how we plan on packaging these together is like Toby was saying, you could end up with when all your estimates come back, 7.5, 750, 8.25, whatever. You know, we plan on then going back and looking with your approval to see if there's something else in there that, can we add a street and still stay within that portion?
Can you do that, Toby? Because I know at the last
Just to make
mayor's...
sure that, you know, we're asking for
The proper
the
amount.
most, and then let them cut back.
I know at the last Mayors and Commissioners Caucus, we were discussing this, and some of the mayors were upset because they had applied for $1 million, assuming that the bids were going to come in at $1 million, and it turns out maybe they only come in at $850, okay?
Yeah.
So, well, rather than finding more work to do, they had to send the $150 back.
And that's why I know right now there's 13 streets. Some of those streets are various of length. Some are 2 blocks long, some are 5 blocks long. So I would suggest you don't put in just for, hey, I'm going to get $1 million of worth of money out of them, and then you have to kick in $333,000. So now you're up to $1.3 million. No. If you're requesting $1.5 million out of the state.
This is a 25% match, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can apply for as much money as you can. You know, so they don't get, but you're only going to get that money for those particular specific projects.
Right.
So you just can't add extra work at the very, once I got $1 million and, now the bids only came in at 800,000. Well, I want to add this street and that. No, you can't do that. You will not, the projects.
And that was what was frustrating to the mayors, was that, okay, they just gave us $1 million. We only used, we were conservative, we only used 800,000.
You gotta give it back.
We're getting it back. What are they gonna do with it? Okay.
But is that why you're saying actually you showed over $1 million?
Oh, yeah, sure.
So that if your bids do come in, then you can take that
That's
over
another
above.
phone call conversation that you have with, to make sure that, that you can do that.
Yeah, okay.
And then that's, what if the bids come, asphalt prices double? Then you're only doing half as much as what you can do.
Right.
That's just the nature of the beast right now.
Right.
And so it's up to us to come up with some fair market value for the asphalt that's being laid, plus another 10% for inflation, and then that's what we stick into the application. Now, is it exact science? No, not until it goes out for bid.
Right.
But we see what's on the NDOT, what's coming down the line. When these projects go out for bid, all dictates how you get your prices. So if you get, in October, you're going to say, hey, congratulations, you got $1 million. As soon as you can go put this thing out for a letting to general contractors so they can start asphalt in the month of April versus the month of July.
You get in the front of the schedule.
Absolutely.
I'll make a motion that we allow this.
I've got a question that this may sound dumb, but when you mentioned handicap ramps, we've put in quite a few handicap ramps around town, and I noticed when the state went through here this last time, every handicap ramp that they put in, they tore completely out. Can't these things that you put in be revamped? I mean, how about the ones we put in? When you said handicap ramps, this grant, if you put a handicap ramp in, you have to put it according to state requirements. Is that right?
Current state requirements.
Current.
Change.
I mean, it'd be a perfectly fine handicap ramp there.
So if you get a street that we want to repave and we've already put the handicap ramp in there,
As long as it's compliant, you don't have to do anything to it.
It changes about every 4 or 5 years.
Probably none of ours are up to current.
The majority of these streets have no handicap ramps on them.
Yeah.
okay, good.
So
Perfect.
You're gonna
Okay,
get a
so we're
lot-
good to go.
You're gonna get a lot of asphalt dollars if we get this.
Jeremy, all these along Monroe Street, the state just went through and put them in, what was it, 2 years ago?
Yeah, it's been longer than that ago.
And
About 5 or 6.
instead of revamping them, they just tore them all out and
And
redid
some of them they tore out and put in, and then they tore them out and put them
A
in
lot of
again.
times it's just as easy and cheap for them just to tear them out and start over.
Okay.
We got the concrete guys back there laughing.
Discussion another day. But
That's good.
I make a motion that we
Sign that.
utilize the
With the
other
changes that I recommend. With the changes that I
With the changes that,
our council recommended.
So, with that, can I ask you, with a good faith, because I want to get you in our queue to get you going, could you sign it today? And if I say something stupid, tell me. Sign it today, knowing that those changes are going to be coming, and then I want Tim to email me those changes in the contract, because then I can put your exact language in there. I don't want to rely on myself to screw it up, because I will.
Yeah, that's fine.
If that's the case. So I can't start any work until I have a signed contract in front of me, and I want to get you guys in line.
Are you okay with me just, there's some corrections on the spelling? Can I?
Oh, absolutely,
go ahead and
absolutely.
work with
And-
Okay, you got one that I haven't written all over. Good.
So
We'll
if
sign
we
that
approve
one.
it today, we could get awarded in October, so we pay you in December. If we're awarded.
Knowing our accounting department, that's probably what you're going to get, so.
is this the mayor's
If we're
signature?
awarded.
No, you will.
We need to give him the permission to sign.
The corporate headquarters is in Indianapolis. I have a Fort Wayne office.
Did you hear that, Ken?
We're at,
We all signed it, or?
Constitution Drive,
Okay.
up by
So,
Magnavox.
did you want to say-
Right, that neck of the woods.
He's out.
You want to vote on this then?
So-
Yeah,
Need a motion to
So
second.
it's- okay, so it's pretty close to come swinging in.
And he knows where I live, and I know where you live, so.
Toby's relatively local here, but Wells County, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
we have a motion and a second.
Work with Adams County.
Motion and a second to proceed with Butler, Fairman, Seifert on the, what's it called, the agreement between owner and engineer for the community crossings. And all in favor of that? Aye. Opposed? Okay, we're going to sign this copy here.
Chairman Seifert.
Toby, what we're signing, like where it says councilman, do you want me to scratch that out?
Scratch it out. I apologize that, my guys knew it, but it just...
Seifert.
Then you guys can change it accordingly.
SEU at the RT.
Any other questions to make you, for your comfort level?
$99.95.
I'm good. Thank you, Toby.
$99.10.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep. So you guys been called in with our redevelopment commission. Also,
Yeah.
for presentation.
Yeah. Wait, stick around.
You sign on.
Excuse me?
I need one.
Yeah, if you want to hang around, it can be kind of boring. Go ahead, buddy. Feel free to give me a call.
They do on they just cross out councilman,
18, 19.
and then
7/17/18.
Same with you. You want me to just put BOW? Or don't worry about it?
it's up there above you.
There's another one to sign.
I'm a councilman.
I know, but you're... Oh, I see what they're doing. Well, I don't care, you can do
You
that.
don't care, do you?
No, because this is up here. You're signing as a BOW member.
Okay, good. Mr. Carbach.
What's that?
BOW. Pass those back to Tim. Send him on his way.
And if you know, literally, I could interlineate, I could just write in the
Phyllis.
two changes, because they're minor, and you
Toby, if you'd like, Tim says he can just write in.
You only just
And then you
print
can
in,
initial?
he can initial, you can initial, or the vice president
Get
can.
the changes right now.
If you want me to do that,
I'm going to be hanging around here for a little while, because I have nothing else better to do.
We only need to really write it on one copy, right?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay.
Well, you want it for the record.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
As long as you're done before the altar.
I need the one back from
Good
Phyllis.
part was last night.
Home run derby.
Okay, next thing I have, discussion regarding no parking on 9th Street. That goes back almost a month ago, but did any of you drive 9th Street, drive up and down the alleys behind 9th Street? Kind of look over the situation there. It's narrower from Monroe Street to Nutman Avenue. If a fire apparatus had to get down there, it could be very tough. You know, do we want to make no parking on one side or the other? I have a question, is what I visualized was when you turn off Monroe Street and head north, and I visualized in the first block there being really no reason for anybody to be parking on the one side of the street, because there really wasn't any houses on the one side of the street. But on the next full block, I thought the no parking might be better on the other side of the street. Is that ever done in a 2-block stretch where there's no parking on one side in the first block and no parking on the other side in the second block? Is that unheard of?
I looked at it at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I looked at it at 5:30 in the evenings, because I wanted to catch the traffic at lunchtime and see, you know,
How many cars
two
are
different
parked?
times a day, to where if there's a shift change or something, you know, for people parking on the street. I counted 5 cars on at both times of the day. It might have shifted by 1 car, but I counted on the west side of that street 5 cars, and I counted on the east side of the street 7 cars. After that real estate company there, that when you turn on that street, on
Right.
9th Street from Monroe and go first, there was a house with a handicap ramp, but then I also found, you know, a wooden ramp right down to the street, and there were 2 or 3 cars parked in front of it. But I also found out after that that there was no handicapped person living there anymore. So I would imagine, in my opinion, that that should be probably not considered a handicap situation.
Right.
I prefer my personal self, but I don't know if it's a statute, a state, or whatever, but halfway up the block, they've got yellow curb on each one of the alley entrances, and I also drove to the east and to the west of 9th Street to find out the availability of alley parking, and there is on both of those
both of those, on both sides of that street, east and west of 9th Street, in the alleys, there's available parking. Now, towards the north part on the east side, there was, I don't know, there were a bunch of junk cars not in there that didn't look like they were tagged, so that, I mean, available parking, probably an inconvenience for somebody to park in the alley at this time, probably, but I'm thinking that, do we need to do a public hearing on this thing, so we discuss this? I'm asking.
That's another issue. I mean,
And
how many...
and the other thing is that I would prefer, instead of putting posts in the yard that say no parking, why don't we go with the federal law that says if we have yellow curbing, everybody knows that you can't park on a yellow curb. We've already got yellow curb on the radiuses of each one of the alleys, and I'm tired of looking at signs in the city of Decatur that say no parking. That would be my suggestion. Unless there's some type of a statutory law or federal law that we have to follow, I would prefer that we use yellow paint on it.
Jeremy, weigh in on that.
May be required by the Indiana Uniform Traffic Manual, so you'd have to follow that.
If we could get somebody to check on that, because I spent, a little bit of time on this, and
The other thing, did you drive down the alleys behind the houses?
mm-hmm.
To see how
I
many...
drove on behind the
How
alley,
many of
that's
the
what I
homes
said just a
actually...
minute ago.
Yeah, parked behind their house.
On the east side of it, and also on the west, I drove down both alleys to see available parking, and there are garages there, and there are also driveways, and there's opportunity. And even off the alleys, on the northern part, there's access to park next to the house.
On which side of the street are you talking?
On the east side of the street, I noticed that there, on an alley that comes through, or a street that comes through, there was a gravel driveway at one of the houses towards the north part. Between 9th and, what is that, Nutman? I went between Nutman and Monroe on 9th Street, and I drove...
And then in the middle of that is
both
what?
ways,
What is the middle of
both
that?
alleys
Jackson
on-
Street?
Jackson.
Okay.
It would be Jackson.
From Jackson to Nutman Avenue, in that block. If I drove in the alley on the west side of the street, I saw very little, if any, garages that could be accessed.
Okay. I was talking about the east side.
But on the east side, the alley, there were quite a few.
My suggestion would be,
Go ahead.
after looking that over, I would suggest, there were less cars on the west side, but I would probably leave that open for parking on the street.
Because they don't have the access behind the house.
Correct, is what I'm saying.
Most of them.
Correct.
Any of them.
The only one that I saw that we could probably be an inconvenience was on the northern part towards Nutman, and somebody had some probably not drivable cars parked in a... Well, I'm not trying to be negative, but I'm just saying...
They're plated, they're a little antique.
Les,
Okay.
If I can weigh in on that.
please do.
We normally try to avoid 9th at all, that 9th between Monroe and Nutman pretty much at all costs, but we have customers down there that we would need to service that need be. So our normal route of travel is going to be from the south headed north 90% of the time. So for us, it would be best if the parking would be eliminated on the east side, and the idea of having cars up to Jackson on one side and then on the other, we don't want to make that little veer. It's just best for us that once we pull on to our thoroughfare, that it's pretty much in line.
Understand.
I think it's snow plowing, more than fire department. I think it's snow plowing,
Street cleaning.
and street cleaning, and just...
I would like to
general
ask a member of North 9th Street his opinion.
Well, he won't want it in front of his house.
I want parking on the east side. There's two houses there just to the north of me that nobody lives in. And that's where those old cars are parked. There is parking in the back, but, there's nobody that lives there. The gentleman died several years ago, and his brothers take care of the property, and the cars are still there. I don't know whether they're plated or whatever.
last year they were plated. I haven't been out there this year, but once I tagged them, they put current plates on them. I know, I'm sure they don't
I
run.
don't know why they just don't get rid of the property.
Exactly.
Whatever, but
This whole thing came about because fire's request.
Fire and snowplow.
I take the fire's request.
Okay.
You might.
Bill, you're losing here unless you fight it.
well, I know there's more of us that park on the east side than there are on the west.
Yeah, there was 7 on the east side and 5 on the west side when I drove down it both times.
Do you have access to the rear of your house?
I do.
Do you utilize
And
it?
like I said, I noticed when I drove to that block that you live in, more of your neighbors on your side have access to a garage off the alley, whereas on the west side, I don't think any of them did, that I recall.
There's a few.
Might have been a few.
You know the situation, Bill. Will you make a recommendation? You know a lot of the neighbors along the street?
The only issue I have is the house on the corner of Jackson and 9th would be on the northwest corner. They park there's 2 junk vans that sit there all the time, and they're really a pain to get around. So
Our code enforcement officer might check those
I
out.
can park on the west side, it's not a big deal as long as the neighbors don't growl about it, but I don't want to give them access to be parking on the west side and just leave that, that stuff sitting there and still be a pain to get around.
Feelings? Council members, any other weighing in on this?
Come on in.
I just feel if you're gonna say it's for fire safety and the fire department wants to head north, then they want them on the west side, and that's probably what side they should be parking on. That's what we're doing it for. You're never gonna make everybody happy on the west side, and you're just gonna get them mad.
We did this on 11th Street, and it worked out quite well.
Didn't make people real happy for the first few weeks until they got used to it.
No, but they complied, and
It's much better.
I talked to them a few times, but I don't think it's a public hearing type thing. I think it's a
Public safety kind of
enforcement
thing.
that the city has the right to go and do it, and that's how we did 11th Street anyway.
Why don't you just start painting the curb? Everybody knows you can't park on the yellow curb. Why don't you just paint the curb? Let them get used to it.
I got 3 or 4.
I don't want a bunch of signs in their yard unless we have to.
It's not in their yard, it's our yard.
Well, I'm just saying, those signs,
And you don't have to
they look like crap.
You don't have to put a lot in.
We need to,
Can you check into that ordinance? Where's Jeremy? Is he gone?
You do need signs on curb,
Yeah.
because in the wintertime when there's snow covered.
Oh, the curbs aren't.
It's just like handicap, when you have handicap painted on the pavement, you have to have a sign with it.
That makes too much sense.
if one of you want to make a motion for, this will have to be done by way of ordinance. If you want to make a motion to that effect, we'll proceed. Still got a lot of things on the agenda and Tim has several things, so we need to keep moving.
Keep talking, Coach.
I'll make a motion to turn from Monroe to Nutman on the east side of 9th Street as a no parking zone.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you. Okay, that's that. Next order of business is Les wants to present on behalf of his fire department for additional pay increase. That's
Jackson.
Board of Works, I think I sent you, and council members. I think I sent you an email with 2 spreadsheets, one showing what the base pay of a firefighter is right now, and what it would be with the 3% increase, which is what we're looking at for our normal raise next year, or also if we would increase it by $2,500, which is what Les is proposing. if you've had a chance to look at all that, we'll let Les state his case and go from there.
Well, in 2014, the police were given, at that time, was a $2,500 increase to their base. And Jim just handed you a comparison that I put together today. That $2,500 increase in 2014 is now converted into $2,787 a person. Because of, the 2% added to it, and 2% and 2% as we move on. So a differential, has widened from just the original 2,500. And if we think back to Mayor Schultz, and he said that there would be a time when the fire department would revisit that differential, because for probably 40 years, the police and fire department have been equal on base and benefits, and so that it was a proper time for us to revisit that. Maybe waited a little longer than I should have, but I know we had come out of pretty tough times after 2008 and 9, and it took several years for us to kind of recover from that, and it probably wasn't the best time, and there really is no good time to ask for a substantial raise. But as we continue, and if you look at the comparison, where we stand with the top ones, where we stand if we only receive 3% this year, we're pretty much at the bottom, and these are departments that are fairly comparable in size and in the way they're staffed along with us. So you see New Haven tops out, and then Kendallville, and then Auburn, then Bluffton, then Angola, then us, and then Portland. With the base adjustment, if you look at the bottom, if we adjusted the base to what it would take, Phyllis's calculations would be 2787. Puts us pretty much right in the middle of the cities that are comparable to us.
Let me throw in here that the cities you listed, I think Auburn and New Haven are both larger than us. After that, I think we're bigger than Kendallville, Bluffton, Angola, and Portland. New Haven, though, while they're way out in front there, they're almost twice the size of us in population.
And there is a differential there between police and fire also, a $1,500.
Where'd you get your stats from?
Talking directly to the chiefs.
Both fire and, did you talk to police or just fire?
Well, the fire, but several of them sent me the salary ordinance for the city.
Yeah, we lost an officer to New Haven, so I know their wages are higher than the 47,556.
And they're fighting the same problem with being close proximity to Fort Wayne.
Sure.
Those people don't even have to.
When the difference took place is whenever they closed the police department down.
Dispatch center. So, and I really think from the guy's point of view, and just a couple things that over the last few years where we've saved, and I understand that, the patrolmen are on duty to patrol where we're not always out patrolling, but there's been a lot of projects that we're able to do in-house with a very competent staff that can do anything from changing windows out to pretty much anything maintenance-wise. And those are some of the projects that they have done over the last couple of years. The budget that we had for like LED lighting, if we'd had to have that installed, it would have been close to $13,000. We were able to put all the lights in ourselves, and $3,500, and then we turned around and got almost a $2,200 rebate for the LEDs. So, I mean, those are the little things that I think the staff's able to do and willing to do. And so, we're pretty proud of our building and just in general, there's not a whole lot that we farm out that we're not, even when it comes to a lot of the mechanical rebuilding valves and pumps and those types of things. So, I think that the work there, and it's certainly not, throwing the police under the bus. That's what they're hired for, is to patrol. Our guys are hired to do certainly fire calls and other calls, but also our responsibility to make sure that the building is maintained properly, and we're able to do that without the city having to hire somebody to come in and do some simple things and some pretty substantial tasks that we're able to do with the expertise we have in that.
Mayor, procedurally, does this, the Board of Works recommendation to council?
Yep. Board of Works establishes the salaries for the police and fire, and city council approves.
Okay. Thank you.
Bill, comments? Craig?
The only thing, I know in 2014, we were losing police officers to other cities. They were applying, and the council wanted to know why this was going on. So we did a salary survey then on the police departments and gave them the increase in 14. And since then, we've had relatively success finding new officers. The pay is there. Like I pointed out, the kind of the squeaky wheel gets the oil when you're losing police officers to other cities, and they're applying to other cities and applying to other entities. And our fire department, when we request a new fireman, we've had great success there because the fire department supplies us with, as far as the Board of Works, supplies us with good candidates. I'm not aware of any firemen going out and applying at other areas. Maybe the ball was dropped back in 2014. I don't know where it says that you police officers and the fire department have to be paid the same wage. That's kind of my feelings about it.
I do know that to take the 10 full-time firefighters up to the salary that you're asking would cost the city an additional $71,936. With your 3% raise, it's $34,934. So I don't even know what, I guess it varies because of everyone's longevity and whatever, but some of these guys would be getting almost, a couple of them would be getting 13% raises. I've never had a 13% raise. A couple would have 10% raises, 11.5%. So it's...
I would make a suggestion.
Yep.
That, and I do spend a lot of time at the fire and police department, on the positive side, by the way. I do know that I watch the guys when I go in there. I watch them change out the lights. I know that they climb all over that truck, and they do a lot of maintenance on their vehicles and things that would cost us a ton of money if we did it. I think we come to a compromise on this situation, and we do an increase in a tiered fashion over the next 2 years. Increase in 3 now, let's bring it back up and instead of stair-step this up. The 13% increase is going to look like we're really, it's going to make us look stupid. Or not stupid, but I'm just saying, guys, let's tier this up, and I'm saying let's do a ladder effect. Take it a slower, smaller percentage over time.
Well, 3%, if we only give them 3% now, the police are going to get 3%. That doesn't do
I
anything.
realize that. I'm saying
It's gotta be more than 3.
Let's step it up. If we've got to make it, what's the difference that we have to make up?
About $2,700 some dollars.
Which would be percentage-wise?
When I
Craig's recommendation. It's a 13% difference.
When I calculated, I already put in the 3% the policemen were getting.
Correct.
And I made the same.
So I'm saying, why don't we do this over a 6-month period? We increase them an additional 3. At 12 months, we kick that back in and catch them up over a 2-year period. It's just a suggestion.
Start at 19.
Huh?
You would start this at 19.
That's my suggestion.
Start it in 19. Yeah.
So you're saying...
There's several options.
Do you have a better suggestion? To me, more palatable for the board?
Well, there is a difference between 2787 and 2500 on tacked on, and I don't want to use the term bonus, but Phyllis and I talked about this, is, you know, you figured the 18 base times 3%, then just put the 2500, that would have been the way the police would have got it originally, because there wouldn't have been any percentile increase that first year. That doesn't save a lot, but it saves some. Then, like next year, make that difference up, because it won't be 2787, it might be 2900 next year. But then you don't have to make up that difference from the base next year, whatever the base would be. So there's several ways to...
Well, it sounds to me like you're not going to get it. I'm trying to make a...
I think you're in that with your tiered
suggestion.
And I think we could live with a tiered plan. I mean,
that's my suggestion.
And however that might be, whether it's half of 2787 this year.
Yeah.
Where's this 2787 number?
Yeah,
I don't even know where
I
you're
want
coming.
percentage.
Well,
I don't want a number. I
What's
want percentage. It's all gonna vary.
if that's the difference between what the base is now.
Okay.
Well, if they go with the 3% that everyone's getting,
Yeah.
and then an additional 3% possibly could be starting the tiered, so it would be a total 6% increase.
That's what I'm trying to suggest.
And trust me,
It's just always walking.
Trust me, guys, it's very, if you look at that spreadsheet Phyllis gave us where their base pay, every one of them has a base pay of $45,705. But because of longevity, annual rank, their, and everything else that's included as far as perf and Medicare, and by the time you get down to the annual pay, the gross, it's totally different from guy to guy to guy to guy because of their seniority.
Sure.
Right. So you can't just say that, I mean, if you give a 3% raise plus another 3%, it's not going to weigh out. I would say if we want to stair step, let's let Phyllis play with the numbers, come up with something and for the budget purpose and move forward, understanding that we're going to do part this year, part next year.
Then you could go to, there'd be instead of...
Can't change the base.
Well, part 19, part 20, yeah.
You could go an additional 1,000, if you want to put a number.
Yeah. And so is that okay with you if Phyllis plays with the numbers?
Oh,
does
absolutely.
part of it this year, part of it next year?
Because I think in reality, we don't want to walk away empty-handed. I think we want to have a long-term plan. It's going to affect probably 3 of us that are contemplating a perf drop date next year.
And that shouldn't have any bearing on this whatsoever. None. I don't even think you should bring that up.
Okay, strike that from the record.
Thank you. I don't think that's a smart thing to even say.
What about the volunteer firemen? Where's their salary? Where are they at?
Compared to, they got an increase last year on the training, pretty substantial one, $2 on their training.
And they're right in line with pretty much any of the others, maybe with the exception of Bluffton that has a pretty intricate pay scale for their volunteers that are based
How
on
are
time.
they paid by the, how are they paid?
By the hour.
What is the hourly rate? On call.
For ours,
Yeah.
15 for the first hour, and then 12 for each additional hour after that. And then
Okay.
we're paid 12 for training.
For the sake of time,
Can I just add one more thing? So you guys know, when you do increase the police and fire base, it affects the old pensioners too. So they will also get this rate. The state does reimburse us for those, but we have to pay the money up front.
but we get reimbursed, so that really
Just so you know, that's how that works. We still have people in the old pension plan. So if anybody hired prior to 1977, the city pays for those.
Okay.
But it did the same with the police
Police,
when we did that in
same way.
14, so that's, if we get
So
reimbursed
if
for it,
anyone
that's a
asks
big deal to me.
questions or ask about the pensions, that's
Okay, so we're going to table this?
I would ask
future?
for the motion to let Phyllis plant the numbers to work out partial this year, the balance, partial 19 with the balance in 2020, and based on that, we'll work with Les, make it work.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Barb, you figure out a way to write that, right?
Just what he just said.
Yeah.
Salary down on basis over 2 years.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. I got fireman's salary on a percentage basis over 2 years.
I just want to put a little comment on that.
Yep, go ahead.
We put a lot more work on our firefighters just about a year ago when we sent them out
Yeah.
every person on first responder runs. I think some way down the line we may be looking to getting some of our money back on that, because I think if you look at Les' numbers, they're going to be a lot higher in the next several years, because that truck is going out more often and we're paying out more overtime, helping a facility that it's been charging for them to go out there, but we're going out there first at no charge.
Les, are volunteers going out on those medical runs?
Some,
Do we need them to?
yeah, because we're only running one person from the station, so, and it's not a big number of those that respond.
Okay, but every time you take the truck out, it costs so much money, okay, right? And we're taking out a lot more,
Oh, yeah.
a lot more. So,
Just saying it does not have to be addressed tonight, but it probably needs to be looked into, because we're working out some kind of partnership with the hospital in essence of how they're going to help us recoup some of our costs that we're throwing a lot of costs out there. Just wanted to put it out there.
noted.
Thank you.
Kevin, American Structure Point Utility Asset Management Software and Capital Improvement Plan Agreement with amendments. Tim, you have those amendments? No?
No, they did not get them to me this afternoon, so.
Scratch that for tonight? Perfect. Kurt, pay.gov for building and zoning. I think currently we're allowing payments to be made, cash or check. If you're getting a building permit, you'd like to accept a credit card, and this is something through pay.gov.
Yes, sir. We have 3% would go for the card holder. They would have to pay up front or pay off if they want to use a credit card.
Got it?
Right now, it's kind of inconvenient. About twice a week, we get somebody who wants to come in and pay with a credit card, and we got to tell them you can't do a check.
And I think, didn't you tell me, Jeremy, that Park and Rec's looking at doing the same thing?
Park and Rec did.
They did it already.
They already did? Okay, all right.
The county.
That was the joint city-county software.
Seems like a no-brainer to me. Motion?
So moved.
Motion. Second.
Kurt, you got your
This is for credit card.
pay.gov.
Yeah, pay with building plan and credit card.
Tim, what do you got?
Okay, first of all, the bit of good news, we finally received the motion to dismiss with prejudice the lawsuit filed by Mr. Gage regarding his request for disannexation.
Good.
That has now been settled and closed, and we're done with it. So,
Thank you.
second thing, and I would make that a matter of record, that's why I brought it up.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to make this a matter of record. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Gotcha. Property, Gage property, what'd you call it?
Cage lawsuit was dismissed with prejudice. Second thing I'll bring up is AEP is requested for an easement. Jeremy can add anything to this as well, but it's an easement that runs along Jackson Street and ties into an existing string of transmission lines and an easement that already exists up near First Street where the holding tank is for the waste department. It really straightens out the easement at the curve of Jackson Street, and that's the primary reason for this request. My concern when this was first brought to my attention was, would it interfere in any way with where the storage tank is located? Because if we have to do any renovations or improvements to that area, we don't want that to be a hindrance. From what Jeremy indicated, that's not an issue. So if that's the case, then I have no objection to this. The only question that I have is, in the past, Indiana, Michigan did pay the city for the easement, and in this case are offering nothing. It's basically $1 and other valuable consideration. So you may want to table this and ask them to why there's no compensation. Jeremy, I don't know if you know why or not.
I don't know why.
Was this their request or ours?
Yeah, they've always paid us for
Doing it. I did it today.
I mean, they're the one that requesting it, we didn't ask them to do it. Okay. Then I would at least suggest, unless there's a pressing need for this, that we table it, check with them to see.
I can contact them tomorrow.
They have started working at it.
They put them in today.
Well, I'm sure it's not completed. They might have put-
No.
Probably
The holes are
should tomorrow and
Well, we still get revenue, even after they put them in.
AEP.
Well, let's table it. Well, if they're already doing the project, your next meeting,
They're not in that portion. They're
I understand, but the next meeting is going to be August 7th. So,
check with them tomorrow.
You go check with them?
I will check with them.
Okay.
Why don't we give permission for the clarity on your signature after Jeremy checks with him?
That's fine.
Make a motion that the mayor checks into it, or Jeremy Gilbert checks into it, and we give permission to the mayor to sign off on that.
Second.
Once we have an clarification,
I
why no
understand.
compensation.
You're happy?
Yep.
All in favor?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? I'm not going to sign this now, Tim. I'll hang on to it, all right?
yeah, subject to
Yep. Call it a motion.
an agreement with regard to compensation.
Yep.
All right, the next thing that I have, probably the last thing I'm going to bring up for lack of time, is the warranty deed. I got a call and an email from NERC, from Matt Bondren, regarding the closeout of the Nature Preserve grant. If you recall, a few years ago, we received a DNR grant, and we're in the process of getting ready to close that out. One of the things that they require is verification that the properties that comprise the nature preserve include a restrictive covenant that runs with the land that is required under the Land and Water Conservation Act, which is a federal law. Looking at the deeds that we have that comprise the nature preserve, the deed that we acquired from Community Family Services, the deed that we acquired from St. Mary of the Assumption Catholic Church, has that restriction included. However, there are two other deeds that were FEMA flood buyout deeds up in the corner of Stratton that were acquired many years ago that have other restrictive covenants that are required under FEMA, but it doesn't have this language that's required under the Land and Water Conservation Act. So, and if you also look at the deeds that we got from Community Family Services and St. Mary's, the deeds read to the City of Decatur, parentheses, Park and Recreation Department, where the other two deeds that were FEMA buyouts were only City of Decatur. So, to resolve this, and I went over this with Matt, we're going to have the city proper deed to the City of Decatur Park and Recreation Department of the two properties along Stratton, and then include the restrictive covenant that's required in this new deed. We'll record this, and what that does then is it will consolidate ownership under one name, and all the deeds will have that restrictive covenant. So what I need is to have a motion to approve this warranty deed and the mayor signing it on behalf of the city so it can be recorded. The one other thing that Matt brought up is we also need to parcel out of the acreage that portion of the property that already includes the River Greenway. And the reason for that is apparently that was put in back in the late 90s through another DNR grant. So this grant can't include that acreage. So I'm going to have to get a hold of the surveyors to see, because I'm going to have to literally have a legal description prepared for the River Greenway to accept out from the overall description of the nature preserve. I'm not sure why we have to do that, but that's a requirement. So
The first part seems pretty easy, just a matter of
Yeah, this-
changing the warranty deed around.
right, the second part's going to take a little more.
Restricted covenant on, what's this place called?
So nature preserve.
St. Mary's Nature Preserve.
So just need a motion to approve the deed, authorize the mayor to sign it.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you.
Wrap it up, Tim, just wrap it up.
I'm done.
I had one other thing on the agenda, but I think for the lack of time tonight, we'll pass on that. And you got some things, Phyllis?
Just to make these a matter of record.
Okay. I have two matters of record for employees. I have a resignation from Zach Bloom. Yesterday, 7/16 was his last day, and he has a letter here announcing that. And then I have another one from Joshua Sefton announcing that his last day was yesterday also. So I'd like to make these both matter of record.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you. Anything else, fellas? Anything else,
Mary,
guys?
you got one, I don't know if you want to tackle it now or during the council meeting, there's a code enforcement. I invited this young lady and her son here to talk about a code enforcement issue. Do you want to do it now? Do you want to wait until?
In reference to?
Their property at 7th and, is that Walnut?
7th and Walnut.
I'm wrong.
Walnut and St. Mary's.
Walnut and St. Mary's.
Walnut and St. Mary's. Okay, yeah, we can address it now while Bill's up here right now, so yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I have a real issue with this code enforcement that has been going on for 20-plus years. My husband, for years, had done demolition derbies, and the demolition derbies support all the local fire departments. You know, Preble, Hoagland, Monroeville, they all put on demolition derbies to support. Well, the problem we have is, it is a 2-month-long sport. It's a hobby, just like if somebody who's down the street collects pigeons, has a pigeon hobby, or rabbit hutches, or restores old cars. We, as a family, do demolition derbies. We built demolition derbies at our house, the cars. They're trailered to the demolition derby. The next night they come back. We might use them 2 or 3 times before they're completely no good, then they go to the scrapyard. Well, over the last 20-plus years that this ordinance has been enforced, we continuously get cited by the city ordinance, saying they're going to tow it, that we have to move it, that it's a hazard. It's contained within our property. It is not, on the streets. It's not anywhere, and it's only there for a couple months. It's not like we leave it there, 12 months out of the year. There might be 5 cars within that 2 or 3 month window, and So we continuously have this issue where I feel it singles out a lot of people, this ordinance of, the city threatening to tow people's cars off their properties. We don't have 6-foot weeds growing around them. We don't have, children playing on them. They're contained within our properties, which I have owned for 25 years and paid taxes on that property for 25 years to the city, and you're telling me I can't keep my hobby, which now my son does. We're not allowed to keep that contained within our property when neighbors down the street on St. Mary's and 5th Street can leave a snowplow parked on the road, not attached to a vehicle, but they don't get tagged for it. Or, there's multiple other reasons. I think that because of a neighbor, I get singled out, my family gets singled out.
Because of a neighbor?
Our neighbor doesn't like that we do it.
Likes in general.
She,
Okay.
this neighbor has repeatedly voiced a loud opinion about it, and I'm just,
Because it's against city ordinance.
well, no, she just doesn't like it because she doesn't like looking at it. So she uses the city ordinance as a way to promote her way of making us not do the sport and hobby that helps support the local fire department.
And there's nowhere else that you could park them that wouldn't...
We don't own any other property. I own 56 foot by 56 foot worth of property in Decatur, Indiana that I paid for it, I pay taxes on, and I should be able to park a car on any time I want. And I feel that we are being singled out, and I feel that the ordinance is being abused. I could see if I had a car that hasn't moved in 6 months and had 4-foot weeds growing around it, but these are clearly vehicles that are used for a hobby, and they are gone within a few months. They are not there 24/7. They're not there for a year at a time.
And there's a business on the same road, right there by the train tracks, have cars stacked. Car one on top of each other. And
Is that a business?
I don't know.
Well,
It's a car lot, it's its own business.
But it's the railroad tracks into St. Mary's Street.
Why would cars stack with each other make any different from me having a hobby car versus literally junk cars sitting?
You're in a residential neighborhood and he's in a business neighborhood. That could make a difference right there. That in and of
So what I'm
itself.
saying is, if we can't have, this is my property, I own this property, but yet the person that lives 2 doors down from me can have a snowplow sitting by itself on the city street, which is a traffic hazard, but...
Is it the vehicle you're complaining about, is it operable? The snowplow?
No, it's a snowplow that attaches to the front of a vehicle. That is not attached to a vehicle, it's just a snowplow.
Bill, have you ever come across that snowplow?
City, it's on the corner of 5th and St. Mary Street. It's been there for a year.
In the street? you
In the
say?
street. I have a photograph of it. It's sitting in the street. But the point I'm making is, we're getting singled out by this ordinance that's being abused. The ordinance is being twisted and abused. I can see it being where you don't want people to have waist-high grass, or you don't want old junk vehicles that have been sitting there filled with mice and, causing it. These are things that are there for literally weeks at a time, and then they're gone from the end of August all the way through till summer starts. So you have 2 months that we have the motion derby cars there. And I really...
I guess the only thing I can really say is, if we give you a reprieve, then we have to give every inoperable, unplated vehicle...
They're not operable, though. They will start and move.
They're not plated.
They're not plated, no. And I think the ordinance needs to be reworded or reworked to reflect that, because you are taking the entire...
But can you understand that to some people, a car that's all done up, what do you call them, a demolition derby car, sitting in someone's yard might, in their mind, be offensive in their neighborhood? Can you understand that?
I don't like trolls. But that doesn't mean that the lady who's across the street from me, I should make her take trolls out of her yard.
There's no ordinance against having a little
No,
troll.
and I'm saying, I think the ordinance needs...
But do you understand why we have the ordinance?
For cars that never moved for years on end, these are here for 2 months.
So she
It's
wants,
for a sport and a hobby. I mean, it's not like, they're yard art.
they're requesting that we change an ordinance so they can have 1 to 5 demolition derby cars in their yard for a few months.
Oh, no, in the span of the summer, not
Not at one
long, not
time.
5 cars there. In the span of summer. I mean, it's just either cars that will get built for the event, get used, and then go away. It's not like they will sit there for all year round causing eyesore.
Okay, we got a council meeting at 7:30, but here's what I would suggest. It's a code enforcement issue from the standpoint of the existing ordinance. It's a violation of the ordinance. Things that are parked on the street should be street worthy. This vehicle isn't, okay? If the council's inclined to change the ordinance, that's something that council has to do. So you're suggesting that the council review the ordinance to see if they're willing to make that change. That's something that they can take into consideration, and ultimately, council will have to make a decision on whether or not they feel that's an appropriate thing to do. The other thing in the meantime that I would suggest is if there's any way you can find a different location to park these so that they're not on your property or in front of your property, and it's going to avoid you getting the citations. And
How am I supposed to prepare these cars for the event?
well, I'm just saying, if there's a different place that you could do it, it's probably preferable than in a residential neighborhood.
Anybody that lives in the city of Decatur cannot support the demolition derby, who supports the fire department.
Sure they can, if they have a garage to do it
Do
in.
you have a garage to
No,
put them in?
we don't have
Well-
a garage that would accommodate it.
Okay, well then you can't.
Yeah, that would
You
be
really
the
can't.
only reason, yeah.
Unfortunately, because of the ordinance, you can't.
So,
You can't have, unlicensed vehicles that are all wrecked sitting in your yard, and it looks bad to the neighborhood. Excuse me?
Why buy property? Why should anybody own their property if you have...
Well, most people would
you
prefer to see you take pride in your property rather than try to put wrecked vehicles in your yard. Okay.
Your opinion and my opinion on a wrecked vehicle...
And that's fine.
I just wanted to bring in...
The county allows it.
We don't live in the county, we live in the city. I bought...
That may be
I bought property
that
on
may be an option.
the city. So...
I'm 19, I can't afford that right now.
Well, unless county, like I told you the other day, council makes the ordinances. I just go out and let people know what the ordinance is. If they're willing to deviate from that, that's fine. But you made your request, they can discuss it, and if they're willing to do that, that's fine.
I wanted to allow you to bring it up now because we had about 10 minutes, and it might have been another hour and a half before you would have been able to bring it up, so.
You gonna call it?
Yep, we need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned for a couple minutes here.